We are on the road in Kansas City with the American Bankers Association Ag Banking Conference going on, and one of the keynote speakers, Nathan Kauffman, who is the executive in the Omaha branch of the Kansas City Federal Reserve. And Nathan, as we talk, the Fed's meeting, but we don't get into that. That's for somebody else to make that call. But one of the things that you focus a lot on is what goes on in the farming and ranching sectors. We know that farm incomes are going to be down. We're looking at some things that some of these risks are now becoming of some concerns, but kind of what is the take? What are you seeing and hearing out in the countryside?
I think we are seeing that incomes are expected to be a bit lower, and it's not gotten to the point where there's really a lot of concern about immediate collapse. I mean, it's not to that point, but there are a lot of lenders and others in the ag sector that are looking over the course of the next year and being careful and starting to think more about liquidity and having working capital on hand to be able to respond to what might be a short-term adjustment.
Was there a surprise that after the big run-up in commodity prices that loan volumes, loan numbers are so high?
I think it's maybe not unexpected. But I think that what we have been seeing is that it's not just increased lending activity, it's also for rather large loans. And so if that gets to a point where it continues to go up at a time when income is going down, then that represents increased leverage. And we've seen that cycle play out in the past. And that's one where we want to be cautious to be able to look at the risk and recognize when some of those things might need to be corrected.
The agriculture economy has put a lot of their eggs, if you will, into two baskets: ethanol and China. Both of them maybe aren't as strong as what they were a year ago.
I think both of them are still operating at a relatively high level, but what's been happening is that the demand growth has been softening. So we saw an expansion in the ethanol sector from 2005 up through 2010 and 11, and it's still been quite strong, but the growth is not there as it had been in the past. And the same is also true of China, and of course with a lot of news recently about the turmoil in the Chinese economy represents some additional risk that we might be seeing a slowdown in China. And with those being two critical factors driving the ag economy boom that we've been seeing, that represents some concern for risk going forward too.
As we look at the beef belt, are you concerned there? I mean, we've run pretty hard in this cattle market. There's some softening there, and maybe trying to find exactly where we go. Even though expansion of the herd is happening, the market still is kind of trying to find their way.
I think that there we have been seeing quite a few changes. From last year, things were pretty good in the livestock sector overall, especially in the cow-calf sector. Of course, now we've been seeing some pretty dramatic changes in prices, and some of that, I think, is a reaction to supply changes that we've been seeing through the year. I think there the concern is as we see demand going forward, whether or not demand stays strong. And again, you think about some of the concerns in a more macro sense, and clearly exchange rates matter. And when we think about the demand strength that we have from our key export destinations, that's going to be an important thing to watch.
Farmland has been the other thing that has really been a boost to the rural economy. We've cooled off a little bit in most areas. Some areas still very strong. Is that something that you're keeping an eye on, as that it doesn't get too inflated or doesn't deflate too quickly?
We do need to keep an eye on farmland values. Farmland is collateral that's used on a lot of other loans, and so if there were problems in farmland values, not just for the fact of lower returns from landowners, but also the availability for credit in other areas. We haven't seen a significant drop in land values. It's been a modest decline, but there is obviously some careful attention that needs to be paid to what happens in land values going forward.
Well, Nathan, appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Nathan Kauffman, who is the executive of the Omaha branch of the Kansas City Federal Reserve, has joined us on the road in Kansas City for Ag View. I'm Ken Rogers.